Alright friends, it's time for another Blaha video. I just saw this pop up a minute ago, so I figured I'm going to do a reaction video to the gym lifting recruiting fitness gear slave himself, Jason Blaha. So, in this video, Blaha says, lengthening position exercises are the current evidence-based fad. Okay.
All right, we have the newest trend that needs to be addressed with this lengthened position stuff. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. This is the newest fad.
Okay.
They come and go all the time to where you have all these little circles of evidence-based influencers who maybe they have a PhD from a terrible university or whatever it happens to be, and they jump onto these small trends with studies. And they take off and they contradict each other from year to year.
Okay, I will agree. I will agree with that for sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm not interested in those studies. Those are just findings. They're just looking for findings. What the finding would be doing this or doing that. They get paid to do that. You understand me? They get paid. So does it really matter? That doesn't mean that you should take up a study. Oh, let me see. Let me take up the study and see what happens to my left flexor instead of my right flexor and all that kind of bullshit.
So in other words, we have this whole obsession with, they weren't being called shortened position, but they were shortened position exercises just like 8 to 10 years ago.
Here's the thing.
Right?
Does science tell you what builds muscle? Yeah. Absolutely. Science tells you everything. It tells you how it goes about building it and a bunch of stuff. Yeah. It tells you how to get out of these adaptations. It says unaccustomed exercise is known to cause what? Widespread muscle damage. It tells you that. It tells you damage is what builds muscles. Yeah. Providing you're adding a certain amount of stress or tension and stress to that muscle. So the mechanical, you could have stress, you could have metabolic stress or stress to a cell. Well, listen to the word metabolic stress. It's complicated. Okay, so stress. What kind of stresses are there? There's all kinds of stresses that can happen to a muscle. It can happen in different lengthening positions. It can happen in the short or lengthened or whatever. Okay, when they say mechanical tension, well, there's tension there, right? Okay, what's the tension? Well, if we're just doing eccentrics, there's tension there all the time on the eccentric, right? See? Now, if you're in the concentric, is the tension there as well? Always there in the concentric? Yeah. Excuse me. So it's always there.
Contreras with a lot of it, with his obsession with the hip thrusts and everything else, which again, a shortened position exercise for the glutes, due to all his EMG data and so on, and it became the newest trendy thing. Now we have all these people, including Dr. Milo Wolf, pushing this lengthened position stuff. And the problem is we already know the data is horrible in exercise science. The studies are small studies. And we know when we look at some of the stuff of why there can be problems. Some of it, these people are trying to purely collect data without thinking through the why this appeared. And so the whole thing you're seeing.
Exactly. They're collecting data. That's what they're doing. They're collecting data. That's all it really is.
With some of these studies are showing that these lengthened position, deep focus on the lengthened position is what determines if an exercise is superior because of certain data in hypertrophy. Again, purely for hypertrophy purposes. But here's the problem with this concept. This is usually being done in studies or looking at things that have a strength curve to where the most mechanical tension on the muscle is in the lengthened position. Okay, so.
Yeah, exactly. There's more. How should I put it? There's more mechanical tension in the lengthened position, yes, than it would be in the shortened position. Yeah, it's kind of obvious.
We need to be clear on that.
Hey Ontario, looking for an online casino that...
Okay, so we need to be clear on that.
Okay.
We need to be clear on that. And sometimes the deepest stretch position, by the way, isn't always achieved by further lengthening of the muscles, such as certain calf raises as an example, the stretching of the Achilles tendon at the bottom.
What about it? What about it?
It's not necessarily additional muscle mechanical tension. When you look at some of the data on pectorals, right? We compare.
It's funny, just keep saying mechanical tension. Mechanical tension just means weights moving up and down in a position. That's all it means. It means nothing. It means that you haven't relieved the tension. So how do you relieve the tension? Well, if you do a full range of motion, you relieve the tension where? At the top. You break There's a relief of the tension. There's no tension. Now, if you keep the tension constantly there in the eccentric, right, you're going up and down eccentrically, the tension is always there. There's a heavy amount of mechanical tension. But honestly, it's all mechanical tension anyways, even in full range of motion up and down. There's mechanical tension. How much mechanical tension is there? There's less mechanical tension in a full range of motion than there would be in a eccentric range of motion. Okay, bro? So what?
Different bench press bars, what's been seen. An observation like where the researchers notice it when they go to like a cambered bar instead of a straight bar for the bench press, that it didn't cause additional pectoral activation. When they look at it, it causes more deltoid activation.
What? So because they changed the bar, there's more activation because of a bar? What did your grip get? You had to grip the bar now? The grip was a lot more? I don't understand what he's talking about. Blah's out to lunch.
The deeper stretch anterior deltoid. And in that case, they concluded, looking at it, that it was because of the tendon. So the pectoral, in that case...
They concluded it was the tendon. He actually reading these studies?
Is no longer lengthening any further. It's just the tendon itself stretching, and then end up getting more involvement from the anterior deltoid. But the
No. There's a lot of stretch, and the weight going down, and the stretch on the muscle fiber, and the tendon and ligaments. There's stretch, bro. In eccentric exercise, there's a stretch caused. It's on the ligaments, tendons, and muscles. And ligaments and tendons, they don't have blood vessels, so blood doesn't really travel to them very well. That's another reason why you want to go the full cycle, 7 days of repair and remodeling, because of the tendons and the ligaments. They take slightly longer than muscles to repair and remodel. They always take longer. That's why you have these people that used to say take a hot bath to circulate the blood, because they lack these blood vessels, bro. Yeah, that's why. You can read it in science, okay? Ligaments, tendons, lack of fucking blood vessels, okay? They take a little bit longer to repair and remodel. That's why you don't want to come back early. That's another reason.
Pectorals themselves, from that extra couple inches of range of motion, didn't receive any additional stretch, so they're not getting more mechanical tension placed upon them.
No, they didn't get mechanical tension placed on them, additional stretch in the eccentric. But in the concentric, if you do concentric exercise, is there a mechanical tension there? If you're just doing concentric, well, yeah, there's some mechanical tension there. How much tension is there, mechanical tension placed on there? Not a lot. There's going to be more mechanical tension placed on the eccentric because it's going with gravity. That's why. You're going with gravity.
So again, understanding that the deepest stretch is not always creating more of a quote-unquote lengthened position with more tension on the muscle. Okay?
Look, you're getting something, still doing something concentrically. You definitely are going to get something going up and down concentrically. There is some gravity. There's something going on here. It's kind of obvious. But you don't want to take 30 years to try to get something which you could do in 6 months. You understand me? It makes no sense skating uphill. Okay, I'm going to be the first in the world to try to build muscles lifting concentrically. Yes. Oh, guess what? That's going to take you 30 years. But guess what? What if I told you if you just do eccentric exercises, heavy load eccentric exercises, you could build that in 6 months, what would take you 30 years? Which one would you choose? Which one would you choose?
And some of those researchers might argue with my terminology here. But
you understand what I'm asking you? It's very simple. Here's the question. If I told you that you could go to a job and you have to work the rest of your life for $10 an hour, but it'll take you over 100 years to make $1 million. But, I have a job over here, you'll make $1 million in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I got this position. Which one would you take? The one that would take you 100 years to get to $1 million, or the position that I have available to make you make $1 million in a couple fucking years? See what I'm trying to explain to you? So it makes no sense to live concentrically, trying to eke out some gains concentrically, right? Even though there is something going to happen there for sure, because you're bobbing up and down like a loser, right? And you're going still against gravity. So you're going to get something, right? Because science will corroborate, say, well, there's some growth there. There's something because you're moving up and down. You're still moving. You're going from the top down to what isometric and then going back to the top. So there is some lowering and going back up and down, right? See what I'm trying to explain to you? It is a heavy weight. You are causing, what do we call this? Pressure by squeezing the muscle. You're causing pressure on it. But this consistent pressure, lowering, and pressuring, how long will it take you to cause a micro tear in that muscle doing that and then getting it to repair and remodel bigger and stronger to build more myofibrillars? How long will it take you? Plus, it's associated with a loss of sarcomere in series. So the only thing that you have to rely on is the parallel. But you understand me? So that's going to take you 30 years. But let's say, okay, but you got eccentric exercise. You could go heavy. Get it? And it will fucking tear up these muscles like a bitch. And guess what? You'll get them in series and in parallel. And it'll take you fucking 6 months or to a year to get to your destination. But guess what? If you do it concentrically, skating uphill like a loser, it'll take you 30 years to even get close to that, or 40 maybe. I don't know. Okay? I've never seen anybody get big off concentric exercises. That's why they take steroids. Christ, to fake it.
No, from a practicality perspective, they know that I'm right. There's not more tension being placed on the muscle. But all their data on this stuff works under...
Holy mackerel, he looks terrible, bro. Look at that flat chest. It looks ridiculous. I don't know what's going on here. Shit, what happened here? Blah looks funny, man.
The assumption that we're using exercises to where that's where the tension is, but here's the problem.
Yeah, look, he does concentric exercises because it's foolish. Bro, I'm going to run up a stairwell to see if I can cause damage to my legs, running up a stairwell. Well, obviously, everybody knows that running down a stairwell, absorbing energy and running down, causes damage to the muscle fibers, will cause them to grow bigger and stronger. But running up a stairwell will only exhaust them. It'll exhaust them, and then they'll shrink. There's a loss of sarcomere in series when you run up a stairwell. Science will corroborate this. Bro, come on, man. Look, man. Okay? Running. While running uphill like a stairwell can lead to a loss of sarcomere in series. Running down like down a stairwell can lead to an increase in sarcomeres in series, a phenomenon observed in animal models. So why is that? So Blaha is trying to convince you that if you do everything uphill concentrically, you're going to build a muscle, but that's associated with a loss of muscles. But guess what? We're going with gravity, and anything that goes with gravity is going to be what? Is going to get what? An increase in sarcomere in series. Isn't that the whole point of going to a gym? Is trying to increase these stupid sarcomeres in series, man. See, sarcomeres and muscle contraction. Sarcomeres are the basic fundamental units of what? Muscle fibers. They are responsible for muscle contraction. That's how you build muscles, bro. See, sarcomere in series. Look, uphill running, concentric exercise, concentric. You lose muscles. That's why they take steroids. Get it, bro? You understand me? Look, downhill. That's what intelligent people do. See? That's why fucking, what do you call them? The calisthenic guys are so jacked. Look, muscle adaptation. The body can adapt to different types of exercise. It can. And changes in sarcomere number in series are the way the muscles adapt to the demands of different activities. You understand me? So how does it adapt to this activity going going concentrically. How does it adapt concentrically? Well, there's a loss of sarcomeres, in series. You see that? Look, running uphill. See? Concentric exercise, which is what? It leads to a loss. So you're going to the gym to lift weights to lose muscles? Or are you going there to build them, man? You understand how stupid this is, bro? You have to be stupid not to understand that. You really have to be stupid. I got to do a video on that. I think I'm going to have to do an educational video on that because people are really dumb out there, like Blaha.
See where I'm about to go. How about when you got heavy chains? Oh, that changes the strength curve completely. So those lengthened positions, if the strength curve is more normalized through cams,
sure,
certain types of cables, devices, or even on free weights when you go to bands and chains, that strength curve is different in terms of the tension placed on the muscle. And in that case, you might see a situation.
Look at Blaha. That's why he's never building muscles. He actually lost muscle. And he gained sarcoplasmic muscles, these fake muscles, puffy water muscles. Get it? Pretend muscles. You understand me? He lifts concentrically. I try to explain this to people still not understanding, regardless whether he takes steroids or not. He lifts so he can't build muscles. His lifting is to deny muscle growth. Do you understand me? To prevent muscle growth. And to make it smaller, and prevent muscles from growing. That's the exercise in the fitness industry. They want you to lift so you never build any muscles. That's the whole point. Because if you did and you built muscle, well, guess what? They don't have any clients anymore. You don't have any use for them. Their powders, their fake programs, their fake drugs, and everything else that they're doing out there. Get it, bro? They want you skating uphill. As long as they can keep you there, that's where all the profits are, at the top.
Where the lengthened position is no longer the weak point mechanically with the most tension placed on it. Okay? So we need to be clear. The lengthened position is only getting more tension due to the strength curves of the weights involved and then the biomechanical disadvantage. Because it's being
okay, Blaha, sure.
put into a disadvantaged position. Do people understand this? And when you have another exercise where it might be a heavier strength, it may not need that. Like if we're doing even a slight partial with a heavier weight, what do we see all the time? We see great growth, right? And I'm not talking about doing a half rep here. Like I'm not talking about a 4-board press or something. Okay?
Oh, brother.
But we get in situations to where that could happen, and then we're using a heavier weight, and stimulus can be just as high. And when you observe it in the room,
why hasn't Blaha shared how big his arms have gotten from all this exercise? Okay, he's been complaining ever since he started losing weight the last 3 years. Remember, he started during COVID. He tried lowering his body fat, lowering it. He's still exercising the last 4 years, right? I think it's been the last 4 years. So how big are his arms now? How big have they gotten from all this exercise and lifting concentrically? How big has he gotten? How much muscle has he built? How much does he weigh? How much has he built lifting concentrically for the last 4 years in the garage? A zero.
People get big from doing that too. I mean, the deadlift's a perfect example. We could argue about the biomechanics on the deadlift with this. Yet the studies that looked at the deadlift and hypertrophy have found it to be a ridiculously good exercise. You look at EMG data, it produced some interesting results with certain things. I'm not saying EMGs are the be-all, end-all. They're certainly not for hypertrophy, and I think we all agree with that. But in terms of at least activation, that's kind of an interesting point. And then how many people do a bunch of deadlifts and just get crazy jacked off of deadlifts? Yeah, it happens a lot. You get pretty thick. Deadlifts. Yeah, it happens a lot. You get pretty thick.
They get crazy jacked off deadlifts? Well, yeah, I would not say that you're in a lengthened position lifting a very heavy weight. It's causing a very high stretch on the muscle fiber, definitely. There's a thing called muscle fiber splitting. Do they get that? Well, yeah, but the problem is they mess it up because they come back all the time lifting, so they fuck it up. That's what science says, as far as I know. So yeah, that's about the only lift that would give them something, because they're lifting astronomically heavy off the floor. Remember, gravity is still weighing you down. And I'm not saying science says that concentric there is some mass building there, but very minute compared to concentric. You understand what I'm trying to explain to you? There's always going to be something because there's gravity involved. There's something you're pulling a weight or whatever. You understand what I'm trying to explain to you? But eccentric will always be superior to concentric lifting. It will always beat it out.
Okay, you're pretty thick. But the point is with this, they're only looking at
Yes, what's the
point
point,
of
Bob?
greatest mechanical tension.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're looking at the greatest mechanical tension. And where is the greatest mechanical tension placed? In the eccentric. It's kind of obvious.
So yeah, in those situations it makes sense. But what happens when we start going through multiple
Yeah, yes, Blaha, I agree with you. Yes, it makes sense. Yeah, finally, you make sense. It makes sense, yes.
exercises with multiple strength curves, or we start doing different stuff? It's going to not matter, right? As
It is going to matter. It matters.
volumes go up, workloads go up, we create more and more fatigue. A lot of that stuff is going to matter less. But again, what happens when we change
No, it doesn't.
the strength curve to where the tension is no longer greatest in the shortened position? Especially we use certain cams on machines. We start adding chains.
See, look at Blaha. See, isometric and concentric. Isometric, concentric. Now, can you still get something here? Yeah, maybe in 30 years. I don't know.
Start adding bands to different exercises to where that curve is completely different.
You still, as you're going down concentrically, right? You're going with gravity. So are you still gonna get something? Possibly. So I'm trying to say, you still, but there's not enough stretch as what you would get in the eccentric. There's greater mechanical tension in the eccentric to cause this muscle to damage.
Well, that's no longer the case, and I guarantee you it's not going to be a superior hypertrophy stimulus in those positions.
No, yes, it is. It's not going to be superior concentrically. So why are you doing that if you know that? It's superior in what? In the eccentric. That's why science tells you in PubMed and CBI, eccentric exercise is superior to what? Concentric. Why? Greater stretch, bro. It's kind of obvious.
You know, and again, the other argument there is that it may be equal. It's generally
There's
not.
more mechanical stress on the myofibulars, on these muscle fibers in the eccentric than there would be concentrically. Thus, it is superior. It is superior for growth, strength, and power, speed, and performance. There you go. He even admitted it, bro. He admitted it. Strength, power, speed, and performance, eccentric exercise, superior to concentric in every way. Okay?
Showing the majority of those studies are not showing a superior result. And the few
It is superior because even in Olympic lifting, they have admitted that it is superior. It is superior for growth. Why? Because they have to control lowering the weight. They control it, lowering it in the eccentric, and the eccentric makes them stronger in the concentric. They corroborate this in science.
we could argue it's a sample size problem because it's definitely not consistent. So it's clearly a sample size issue, measurement issues, other stuff, because otherwise it would be more consistent.
Okay.
But they're trying to claim that, well, it's at least equal. Well, yeah, only because you're being put in the highest point of mechanical tension being the lengthened position on those particular.
Yeah, the highest greater mechanical tension in the lengthened position. Did he just not admit it?
Exercises, then that makes sense because mechanical tension is.
Of course it makes sense. And he's like, and then, yeah, of course. He corroborates. He says, yes, it makes sense. So why are you doing your stupid exercises then concentrically, you fool? You're trying to take the longest route to get there? Oh man, you know what? Let's take a donkey. Let's take a donkey all the way down to South America instead of flying there in an airplane. Whoa, okay. Let's see how long it'll fucking take us.
An enormous driver of hypertrophy.
You want to know why they keep making faster trains, faster cars, airplanes that could get you there faster? Why was the Concorde popular? Want to know why? Because they wanted to get you there in the shortest shortest time. That's the whole point. To get to your destination in the shortest time, the most efficient, the most intelligent, and shortest time. So if you're going to a gym to build muscle and you want to get stronger and a bunch of stuff, what is the shortest route to get there? Eccentric exercise, because it's superior to what? Concentric. Why? Because there's greater mechanical tension on the eccentric, like Blaha admitted, bro.
Okay. And again, and repeatedly hitting it under fatigue until we create fatigue, obviously is going.
Fatigue. So Blaha fatigues his muscles concentrically. He lives concentric because he wants to fatigue him. I don't want to fatigue any muscles, bro. I'm not a performing endurance slave.
Going to work.
That's
But that, again, goes away as soon as strength curves are changed. And I would say what they're doing, a lot of it's largely due to free weight situations where they are using purely free weights with no accommodating resistance.
So it's the free weights. They have magic powers. Is that it? It's because of the free weights. So it's not because of anything else they're using. It's the free weights. Okay.
Contrast weight. So again, it's not necessarily.
I gotta tell you, I really like this machine that he has for the legs, because you could do sissy squats on here. You could do all kinds of stuff. But he's got all these machines, man, and he doesn't even know how to use them properly. This is sad.
Universally true. And again, if it were also true, we would see differences, and we always go to a longer range of motion to put a deeper stretch. But that doesn't always place more tension on the muscle. The examples I gave of the calves, the examples I gave of the pectorals with different bars. So they're obsessing over something and trying to make it the be-all, end-all, when the reality it's not. Whereas, and I think most of us who've coached a long time realize, should we...
They're not obsessing over anything. They're just yammering about stuff. That's all. They don't know anything about lifting because they're dumb.
Probably have something that puts every muscle into a pretty good lengthened position. Yeah, it would be a really good idea in a balanced program. Does that mean that once we've done it one time that other exercises with different curves are not going to continue to add maximum stimulus when we add some variation? I'm going to say no. In fact, the real world data, we observed that most people don't get the most amazing development possible off of a single exercise per muscle group, even if it is quote unquote superior by their standards of going into.
What are you talking about? You always get the most out of something that is superior, even like blah. Even if it is superior, you're not going to get the most. What do you mean? That's why it's called superior. You're going to get the most development out of it. Yes.
In position, people generally get bigger who have a higher variety of exercises, and we know we are.
That would be bodybuilding. We have a variety of different exercises. We have cables, we have dumbbells, we have barbells, we have the pull-up, we have the dip. We also have compound movements. We have we have deadlifting. We have bench press. We have overhead press. We have the squat. Yeah, bodybuilding is a complete thing. Is a complete exercise.
Also have lower injury risk too due to less overuse. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals.
Yes, very informative, Blaha. Uninformative. I'll see you in the next one with contradictions. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Don't you think about that, like, subscribe, support the channel. Same bad time, same bad channel.